Good day. This is the 41st episode of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. Thank you for joining us. Krissy is firmly promoting the values of restraining from sex before marriage. Desmond Richards talks about the police station in what approximates a lake and paying more for less at the NSWMA. But let's start with frankly speaking about the reality of images of success and failure side by side and a society in denial. Here's my commentary, frankly speaking. Last week, Friday afternoon and into evening, again, for some 3 to 5 hours, many of the roadways at the center of the corporate area were turned into a car park, except that, at least in a car park, you should be able to find an exit that's flowing. Traffic along the major roads around the capital city just stalled or moved excruciatingly slowly in both directions. Washington Boulevard, Dunrobin Avenue, all these roads, Red Hills, Constant Spring, Halfway Tree, Eastwood Park, Molynes, Old Hope, Hagley Park, Lyndhurst, Retirement Roads, Maxfield Avenue, Beechwood Avenue, name them, anywhere around the capital city, the main roads and side roads were clogged for hours. And frankly speaking, it's not the first time, and I'm told by people who have endured it multiple times, that wasn't the worst time either. But frankly speaking, you don't get used to sitting in traffic for 2 hours to move 3 miles. Nobody could explain what happened. There were no major traffic crashes or large police operations or major crime scenes. With a shrug of the shoulder or cynical sigh, a few people offered that it was month-end Friday. And this was what happened. And there was rain too. We must not get to this helpless, hopeless place where we trot out or accept nonsense concepts or glib phrases for our predicament, frankly speaking. Traffic is an issue all over the world, and to various extent, different societies have dealt with it. In Jamaica, in the face of a sharp increase in the number of vehicles over the last 10 years or so in the limited road network, we have done very little aside from seeking to expand a few roadways. The indiscipline among us makes it worse, and on Friday, there was almost no police presence between 4 and 7 on the roads. And yet, there's a fancy named unit, PSTEB, headed by ACP Gary Mackenzie, that is supposed to make what happened Friday almost impossible. Frankly speaking, what goes on the streets of the corporate area, and indeed in the rural parts as well, shows a backward society with symbols of wealth trying to pretend with tools of modernity that it is coping. Frankly speaking, it is a shame. A shame that what takes place on the streets of the capital city is allowed for any haphazard reason at any time, in the event locking up and frustrating tens of thousands of people, wasting hundreds of thousands of man hours at a time, and entrenching the acts of indiscipline and the culture of a state that is failing to make a rather ordinary function in a small, ordinary space. And it's tolerated in a society of poor production, poor productivity. Frankly speaking, it's a shame. Now, here is Desmond Richards.
Once again, we are faced with the corruption, the misappropriation of public funds 60 years after independence. This time, we are talking about the building of a police station in a lake in Green Acres in St. Catherine. Yes, well-needed police station to address the rising crime and violence in those communities. But can you imagine that the station $70 million was spent constructing this police station. And it will now require another $200 million to correct the faults. Now, where were the bureaucrats when this station was being constructed? So there are supposed to be some requisite. Well, was proper soil testing done before that was done to ensure that the land is ready for the size building? Absolutely. None of this was done. Because the bureaucrats, they are some of the collaborators in the system that allow corruption and misappropriation of funds to prevail in this country. Now, can you believe, do you believe that any one of these politicians, if they were running a business, would allow that level of expenditure to be carried out in their business without the company getting its money's worth? They are the ones who are elected to run Company Jamaica, and they are presiding over the misappropriation and the corruption of public funds. Then, the Auditor General has brought to our attention that cost to pay salaries for administrative and other staff at the State Cleansing Agency has gone up. I mean, from 1.7 billion in financial year 2016-17 to 2.9 billion in financial year 2020-21. No, so this is what they are doing. They are pumping up the staff over there, while garbage is piling up all over the country. They don't have enough trucks. I would have imagined that a properly run business would have concentrated on the equipment so as to enable the business to deliver efficient service to its customers, instead of wadding, stuffing the pockets of those office people. Some of them are their cronies, of course, because this agency has an history where the politicians use it as a feeding tree for political cronies, political supporters, and their friends. Now, 60 years and continuing, the corruption, we are sinking under corruption, and I don't see any effort to stop it, and the people are dumb, deaf, and blind to it. Well, let us continue to reap the sour harvest.
That's Desmond Richards, journalist and businessman. And now, here's Crystal Cameron.
On Thursday night, I was on Singles Live on Cool FM with Ann Jeffries. We were talking about dating younger men, as in younger than whatever age the woman happens to be. And I closed up my comments by suggesting to women and girls that we consider not having sex with men with whom we're not married. And apparently it dropped quite a ripple, but I don't understand why it should when it's absolutely so logical. Of course, I've heard this tired talking point of men trying to control women's bodies, but you can liberate your mind without liberating your vagina, and it just so happens that the liberation of the vagina, the more free the vagina is, the less security women have in a society, the less value women have in a society. Your vagina, for example, is your resource that attracts you a mate. Why? Because you have reproductive capability. When we remove all of the advantages, all of the values to getting married and having a family and settling down and being stable and being a patriarch, we instead replace those with rewards for promiscuous behavior, having multiple partners and being a gallus. We can't really be surprised when that is what perpetuates our society. As it stands, we don't have a society that is set up to reward men who get married and have families, at least not in a way that young men can see and understand. I hear this constant refrain from men now, which is, why would I get married? Getting married is not in the best interest of men. Getting married is just for women. Well, see, we've made it that way. Because we remove the pull factors of marriage. There's no need to buy the cow. There's no need to buy the land when you can move on as a squatter and build a house and grow tree and everything on it. These are the things that men want from women. They want comfort. They want a certain security that comes from a reassurance, the nurturing of a woman. They want strong children. They want sex. If they can get all of this, we're living in such an oversex society, they can get all of this without giving us anything in return. It's no wonder that we've lost our value. Keeping the vagina in the panty is a good thing for women. I see sex ruining young men, ruining young women. I see sex, the oversexed environment, ruining the ambition and the morals that men used to have because they knew that that was necessary in order to get a chance to have sex with women. Now, all a man has to do to have sex with a woman is to go on an app and swipe. Maybe buy a KFC on his way to her house. Women complain all the time about not having enough power. This is power that we have now. If enough of us decide not to have premarital sex, then we can transform the dynamics, the gender dynamics in our society, the male dynamics in our society. We can exchange some of these men for actual patriarchs who we can have families with. It's worth your consideration.
That's Crystal Cameron, CEO at Crystal Cameron Designs and Creative. Now, to Endgame. I must applaud a man with a vision and who has been recognized as having been in the forefront of transforming a dream into a profitable reality for teachers and their families in Jamaica. Ray Howell, educator, former principal, former president of the Jamaica Teachers Association, was recognized last week with the naming of the building of Tip Friendly Society, Halfway Tree Road, in his honor. Tip is a finance house, a friendly society cooperative he helped build from the ground up. Howell was elected the founding president of Tip Friendly Society in 2001 and remained president until 2021. The achievements and astute financial management of the organization are stellar. It was formed in the mid-1990s when financial upheavals, debts of big-name finance houses and institutions were commonplace. It was the time of Ponzi schemes. In 1999, TIP had a membership of just over 5,000, an asset base of 8.4 million, and a loan portfolio of 12.5 million Jamaican dollars, and members' savings of 6.3 million Jamaican dollars. Hail to Ray Howell. By last year, when Howell stepped away as president, TIP had membership of over 23,000. That's 4 times what it had 20 years earlier. Assets of over $5 billion compared to just over 8 million 20 years earlier. And real estate assets of $1.5 billion. TIP had savings of over $2.7 billion and a loan portfolio of 3.3 million. In fact, over the past 5 years, TIP realized accumulated surplus of over $1.2 billion. Yes, we could run the numbers and they all look good. It just tells me and it reminds me that good money management, good financial management, good leadership is not beyond our kind. And some of them are doing it every day. Hail to Ray Howell. Finally, farewell to Roosevelt Crooks, an entrepreneur, community man, well known in and around Ocho Rios, where he provided medical support services to institutions on the North Coast, medical institutions on the North Coast. He was a community man and gave willingly and gave much. He died last week after weeks of serious illness. May his soul rest in peace. That's it for our podcast this week, Frankly Speaking Jamaica. Please share, like, and if you have not yet done so, please subscribe to this channel. I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then.